28th day of January 2019 in our top stories. Tonight, adjournment after adjournment. Cases drag in court and justice moves further.
We are actually going to very keenly watch your management of the court cases in court.
The Chief Justice seeks to put his house in order. Also tonight, keeping police officers from turning their guns on themselves.
Sit down with your police officers and let us not pull rank all the time. How? I am now Assistant Commissioner, Assistant Inspector General. I can't sit with this one.
Addressing rising cases of police suicides. Ahead, court locks up Riverside attack suspects for another 5 days as the slain Senaka guard is laid to rest. Plus, Nairobi motorists to walk to work.
We required an integrated transport system whereby we bring the trains, but also to have the last mile. We have the buses as well.
Life seems to be peeping in to the dragging Nairobi regeneration plan.
NTV Tonight with Zainab Ismail.
Thank you so much for joining us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agundoa. Now, Nakuru East Member of Parliament David Gikaria has been charged with 8 counts of fraud relating to land. They include forging land documents and grabbing parcels of land within Nakuru County between August 28th and December 18th, 2007. Gikaria has been accused alongside others not before the court of manipulating entries of dates in the green cards of 8 blocks of land and fraudulently replacing the names of 7 residents with other people purporting to have been entered by the land registrar. He denied the charges and was freed on a personal bond of 3 million shillings with a surety of a similar amount or a cash bail of 1 million shillings. The case will be mentioned on January 30th. Now, a tough-talking Chief Justice David Maraga is now warning judges and magistrates against unnecessary adjournment of cases, stating that stern action will be taken against those found to be sabotaging the judicial process. The CJ says the judiciary must lead in the fight against graft. But as the CJ was speaking at the Supreme Court during the swearing-in of magistrates at the Milimani Court, a magistrate hearing the NYS theft case was adjourning the matter to demand appearance in court of editors from 2 local dailies. Seth Olale reports.
Favor, bias, affection.
Just days after the judiciary was heavily criticized by stakeholders during the anti-corruption conference, the CJ, who has in the past defended the judiciary against claims of slowing down the war on corruption, is now turning the heat on his officers.
You must have seen the media reports on the corruption conference held at Bomas of Kenya last week. We were heavily and roundly criticized, mainly for delay and corruption. I urge you to take charge of your courtrooms. Ensure that you effectively manage cases and matters that are before you.
The Chief Justice told the newly appointed magistrates that their actions must be beyond reproach.
The office you have assumed today is an office of prestige and status, but also one of great responsibility that demands professionalism, dedication, impartiality, independence, and above all, integrity and accountability.
Maraga challenged the newly appointed magistrates to lead by example and change the current narrative that suggests that the judiciary is frustrating the fight against graft.
You find one court granting bond on terms, and another court granting completely different terms in the same offense.
At the Bomas of Kenya meeting, the judiciary faced a barrage of criticism for bending too often to the whims of suspects and defense lawyers, granting uncalled for adjournments leading to prolonged hearings.
The public are fed up with the kind of handling of cases where you are very quick to grant adjournments even when it is not deserved at all. We cannot afford to continue that way, and we are actually going to very, very keenly watch your management of the court cases in court. In criminal cases, I would urge you to familiarize yourselves with the bond and the sentence policies.
The CJ warned that the Judicial Service Commission will review complaints against judicial officers notorious for controversially adjourning cases.
We are actually going to very, very keenly watch your management of the court cases in court. In criminal cases, I would urge you to familiarize yourselves with the bond and the sentence policies.
But even as the Chief Justice was issuing a warning against adjournment of cases, a magistrate presiding over the National Youth Service Cluster 2 corruption case adjourned the hearing after editors from two dailies earlier summoned by the court failed to show up. Principal Magistrate Peter Ooko has previously cautioned journalists covering the NYS case implicating former Principal Secretary Lillian Omolo against misreporting court procedures, but it had never reached a level when an adjournment was effected. The case resumed after Daily Nation and Star newspaper editors showed up, but was adjourned again after one of the suspects failed to attend Monday's session due to illness. A prosecution witness who has been in the stand failed to show up as well amid reports that he is on official duty out of Nairobi. The appointment of 47 new magistrates bring the total to 500 magistrates serving across the country. The newly appointed 47 resident magistrates join 93 others already on duty. Now, the newcomers will undergo a one-week induction at the Judicial Training Institute before reporting to the various working stations. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
And the National Treasury has 30 days to provide the list of public entities that are yet to comply with the Executive Order 2 of 2018. The order demanded the publication of the names of all companies that do business with the government, including the names of their directors and their personal information. Now, Deputy President William Ruto says the government will take appropriate action against such entities. This order was to allow members of the public to scrutinize details of deals including goods and services purchased, costs and suppliers, and as Ken Mijungu reports, the blame is on parent ministries.
In June of 2018, a presidential memorandum was made public. Executive Order 2 of 2018 followed a previous directive that saw the suspension of all procurement chiefs. This was one of the moves the government hoped to employ so as to help in the fight against corruption by making it possible for the public to scrutinize government tenders and contracts.
I want to ask Treasury to forward a list of all public entities that have refused to comply with Executive Order number 2 to the head of public service so that we can take head on the boards, the CEOs of these institutions, because they are the ones who are pulling us back.
But months later, various public entities are yet to comply. Sources indicate that the ministries have failed to collect the data, and those who have some data have been unable to put together what's in their possession. The National Treasury requires this information from individual ministries, after which the data is passed to the head of public service, who in turn publishes it.
It is not a request that the president was making. It is a demand that all public entities must publish their contracts, the beneficiaries, the directors of the companies doing business with government.
The order took effect on the 1st of July 2018 and directed all public entities to maintain and continuously update and publicize the information required and details therein. This matter came up during the launch of the third Open Government Partnership National Action Plan, where subscribing non-national government entities and sub-governments were urged to join.
I believe that if we do this very well in terms of doing well in transparency and accountability, we will actually deal with the challenge of corruption.
Open Government Partnership National Action Plan aims at fostering transparency and makes public entities more accountable to citizens, who in turn get more information, as it enhances participation and protects the inherent right to information.
Because I belong to the other world before I became a speaker, where public participation, sometimes somebody just collects his friends or loyalists to come and, just fulfill that requirement of public participation. And then they say there has been public participation. Or 3 people come, and you say that's public participation. You have told them what to say, so they tell you what you want to hear and say that is public participation. I think we want to move away from.
Kenya joined the Open Government Partnership in 2011 and is among 79 national governments, 20 subnational governments, and about 130 civil societies. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Now, the Tom Mboya Street, Latema Road junction in Nairobi, where Saturday night's IED blast happened, was the scene of a bomb scare after a suspicious metal box was left unattended there. According to Central Police Station OCPD Robinson Adhuku, bomb squad experts were called in and attempted to open the box. NTV's Dennis Okari with that story.
A police barricade at Odeon Cinema bus stage in Nairobi, business coming to standstill, and people wearing the expression, "Not again." 2 people are injured here on Saturday, and the memories were all too fresh when an improvised explosive device exploded at the rather busy street. This metallic box that was left unattended caused panic before the police, including the bomb squad from the DCI, arrived shortly after the public raised an alarm. The box had only been left at the entrance of the Odeon Cinema building, just meters from the scene of Saturday's blast. Guards at the building said the night guards found it abandoned at 5 a.m. and after searching for the owner in vain, moved it to the curb. No one knew the contents of the padlocked box, and after a brief moment, tension started building around the area before police moved in to control the crowd and manage the situation. Shop attendants closed their businesses and milled around to take pictures, oblivious of the dangers they were exposing themselves to. It took officers some time to control and clear the crowds. After a few minutes, they carried the box away for further analysis in a controlled environment away from the public. Following Saturday's incident, police are not taking any chances as they go through CCTV footage from nearby cameras to establish who left this box. Normalcy was restored shortly afterwards, and it was back to business as usual. The National Police Service has urged Kenyans to remain alert and be conscious of their surroundings. Dennis Okari, NTV.
And a security guard who succumbed to gun injuries during the Riverside attack has today been laid to rest at his home in Mugirango, Nyamira County. Zachary Omboga was shot 6 times on the chest and stomach as he tried to save a lady, an employee of Dusit Hotel, who was also killed. The late Omboga was an employee of Senaka Security and was based at the complex since 2015. Omboga was eulogized as brave and one who was dedicated to his work. He has left behind a widow, Janet Nyanchama.
That's all when all those things happened. We want to say we are very grateful for them. We want to say we are grateful for their bravery. We want to say we are grateful for taking chance and putting their lives in front to save others.
The Anti-Terrorism Police Unit has been granted 5 days to detain 3 suspects linked to the terror attack at the Dusit D2 office complex in Nairobi. Abdul Kibiringi, James Mwai Mwangi and Miss Habiba Gedi Honshur will undergo further interrogation, detectives told Nyeri resident magistrate Nelly Kariuki. The suspects were arrested on Friday night and their call logs were yet to be obtained from mobile phone service providers, that is according to the police. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has ordered senior police officers to cultivate a good working relationship with their juniors in order to curb the prevalence of suicides and murders among officers. NTV has in the past months reported on such cases, which Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says can be handled with a little care and a breach of rank by senior police officers. Charity Mwangi reports.
The morbid, repeated case of same script, different cop. Police suicides and murders often read the same. A calm-spirited officer, a faithful public servant whose ultimate action leaves everyone shocked. Early this year, a police officer shot himself in the head while in a toilet at Kipevu Police Post in Mombasa County.
He reported on duty anomaly, and it was unfortunate that that happened, and the motive behind it is not known.
In November 6th, 2018, a police officer attached to Piave Patrol Police Base in Njoro, Nakuru County, killed himself after shooting his wife, to the perplexion of the residents.
Na hakuwa na shida, kaa siku 3 hivi, na wanachanagi wanaenda mpaka senta wananunua vitu wanarudi kwa nyumba. Sasa mimi hata nimeshangaa, nimetoka kwa shamba nimeitiwa ati wamejipiga marisasi wote wa.
And in another incident, an administration police officer shot and critically injured 3 people in Letaine Town, Bomet County, before killing himself. The officer attached to Letaine AP camp is said to have shot a bar attendant and 2 revelers at Diamond Club after he was allegedly denied alcohol.
But the lady replied, yeye hausi mtu wako na uniform na buduki pombe.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has put the onus of ensuring the officers are okay on the seniors.
Go to police stations. That is my last message. Manage, supervise our police officers. Go to police stations, sit down with your police officers. And let us not pull rank all the time. How? I am now Assistant Commissioner. I'm Assistant Inspector General. I can't sit with these ones.
The CS says that the incidences which are caused by personal and professional frustrations are avoidable.
Some of these young police officers who have been posted, some of our police officers who are committing suicide because they are frustrated and so on. Sometimes something goes wrong. It is us who have to sit down with them, Banandolo, and tell them, you know you are worried about being posted here today in Kwale. I started in Kabedo. I mean, some of them could be going through ordinary challenges in life, very ordinary challenges. They have disagreed with their girlfriend. For a young person at that particular age, they think that is the end of the world.
A concern that has arisen is whether the police, who encounter traumatic situations in the line of duty, have any counseling done as part of their operational activities. CS Matiang'i has announced that the police service will set guidelines for a police wellness and service delivery competition, which will result to an immediate promotion of the OCS of the winning station. He was speaking during the launch of a 2-week training for the 14 newly appointed regional commanders. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Well, it was a day of uncertainty for Nakuru East Member of Parliament David Gikaria, who was arrested and charged in court for fraud. In court, the MP went through all manner of emotions, and we are now seeking your opinion. Look at this. What do you think was going through the mind of the legislator as the charges were read to him? What do you think was happening to the mind, or what do you think was going through the mind of the Member of Parliament as the charges were read to him? I'd like to hear from you. Our Twitter handle is at NTV Kenya, subsequently at Zainab Ismail. The hashtag NTV Tonight. We'll come back after this short break. All right, and thank you so much for staying with us. Now, police officers in Juja have in their custody a man and his lover who are suspected of the murder of a woman whose body was found dumped in the waters of a dam in the area. The murder of 40-year-old Mary Wambui is now alleged to be as a result of a love triangle gone terribly wrong.
Pictures of the late Mary Wambui depict a woman full of life. Those of her and her husband Joseph Corey easily paint a picture of marital bliss. However, a picture only captures a moment, and this could be the case for Mary and Joseph, as their marriage bore some strain caused by a suspicion of infidelity on Joseph's part. Judy Wambui is the woman with whom Joseph is said to have been having an affair with. Under unclear circumstances, Joseph's wife Mary and the woman he was allegedly having an affair with, Judy, had some interaction and even spent time together.
That lady sweet talked my sister. Kamwambia tuende tukunywe chai. From there tuende kwangu. Sijui nini ilishika sister.
Upon arrival at Judy's house, the two women found Joseph resting on the couch. Allegedly, none of the three seemed to have known that they would all meet. It is believed that this was the last time Mary was seen alive. The two were arrested after Wambui's body was discovered in the waters of a dam at the area near the toll station at Juja.
Lakini kulingana na maoni yetu tuliona ni kwamba hiyo mwili alikuwa ameuliwa akaletwa hapo. Alikuwa na majeraha kwa kichwa na mikono, kuonyesha kwamba kulikuwa na mvurugano mahali aliuliwa.
Alikuwa na jeraha ya kichwa na bruises kwa mikono. Bruises inamaanisha ni kama alikuwa amefungwa mkono, but ile jeraha imemfanya labda akufe ni hiyo ya kichwa.
Her body is believed to have been transported using her own car. Juja OCPD Simon Thirikwa has confirmed the arrest of the two, who are being held at the Juja police station to assist with investigations. Juja DCIO Obed Keo said the suspects will be arraigned once investigations are complete. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Now prepare to leave your personal cars at home on Wednesdays and Saturdays starting next month. The government is finally rolling out plans to give the public transport system in Nairobi a major facelift. Now, Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia says 11 commuter trains are arriving from Spain to supplement the 64 high-capacity buses expected from early next month for the bus rapid transit system. Lillian Kiarie with more details on the changes set to shake up public transport in the country.
Over the years, chaos and heavy traffic has ruled Kenya's transport system. But now, change is coming and it is set to disrupt the system. Starting this Friday, the Central Business District will be free of personal vehicles and local traders will be allowed to take up their parking lots to sell their wares. This is a pilot program aimed at decongesting the city.
So every Wednesday and Saturday when we lock out the CBD from vehicles and public transport and only allow pedestrians or people in cycles, we'll have a pilot that we're going to roll out in a few days, actually on Friday, 1st of February. The pilot will cover a slightly smaller area. We'll be taking the area in front of Kenya Cinema, that is Moi Avenue, bounded on the southern side by Harambee Avenue. And then this area, this road that separates our Insurance Plaza and the Law Courts, and then City Hall Way.
With personal cars off the road, the government is targeting to entice traders to set up 5,000 temporary stalls in allocated spaces, which will in turn bring in an annual turnover of 3.8 billion shillings in license fees. In a twist that might unsettle some, those with motorbikes have been cut off from accessing the city, while those riding bicycles have been allowed to access the city. On the same day, 1st of February, that the carless pilot program begins, vehicles for the BRT system will start arriving in the country.
We engaged some parties in Spain for the trains in what we call the DMUs, the diesel multiple units. And already we have negotiated the purchase of 11 of those trains. We are at the same time processing the purchase of the first batch of 64 buses from South Africa. They are ready for shipment.
Macharia says that 20 more trains will be imported in due course, as at least 900 BRT buses are required to meet demand. But what is so different with these buses compared to those made locally?
It has a stainless steel frame, basically in terms of safety. It has rollover cage structure, so that some of the buses you have seen, unfortunately when they roll, you see the kind of results we get.
The government also plans on introducing staggered working hours for civil servants, allowing some to start working from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m, while a different batch coming in to work at 9 a.m. and logging off at 6 p.m. This is in order to ease traffic in the capital. Lilian Kiarie, NTV.
And there were mixed reactions on the streets of Nairobi following that announcement by the government. I sought to find out what the residents of Nairobi think of this new directive. Now I'm standing along the City Hallway, one of the roads expected to be cordoned off as a pilot phase to the car-free days within Nairobi CBD every Saturday and Wednesday. And Kenyans had varied sentiments on that new directive by the government.
It is going to affect me because my business, I do it in town. And when you say that I don't bring my car in town and I'm doing my business in town, it is going to affect my business.
It's unfortunate for him that such a directive needs a public participation, so that everybody is included. And I don't really know why they are doing that. We don't know why.
I'm sure the directive is one-sided, because on Wednesdays is a weekday, a working day. So literally, if they close the CBD on weekdays, on Wednesday, it will affect many people, not only me, but I think most of people who live in Nairobi, who are traveling, who are want to go to offices, they will get affected. What I can tell them, Saturday is okay for me, as my personal opinion, and even Sunday, because mostly the offices are closed, and only most business people are there on Saturdays and Sundays.
Anytime there is a small thing which is happening within the NCBD, the traffic jam starts from all the way from Roiro. So if they say that, if that will have to be implemented, it will not work because there will be a lot of traffic jam, and in this case there will be a lot of chaos.
Jaribu siku moja, hiyo ya weekdays, personal zisiingie town. Walijaribu na matatu siku ile na wakashindwa. Siku ingine saa 11 mwenye alikuwa ametoa hiyo Honda aliambiwa lazima gari ziingie. Sasa sisi tungewauliza waseme weekdays, personal isikuje. Zikuje tu matatu na uone hakutakuwa na jam.
Pande ya business as in town unaona hata watu inakuwa congested sana juu ya magari mingi na hakuna business yote inaendelea poa. Kama ni hizo magari zingine za kubeba watu zitegee huko hivyo kando at least kuacha kuwa congested sana.
First of all, I welcome any move on the part of the government to decongest the CBD. It's impossible for many of us to get out during rush hour or get in during rush hour. It's a courageous decision, but I only hope it is well thought out and structured.
All right, and away from that, anger quickly turned into celebration in Baringo this afternoon after residents hunted down and killed a hippo believed to have killed a Class 5 pupil, Fabregas Kiprop. The morning residents were elated after KWS officers shot the hippo, whose meat they scrambled for. However, they were later to learn that this was not the animal that had killed the people who had been sent to the lake to fetch water. The hunt for the killer hippo is expected to resume tomorrow. And a student suspected to have been part of a group that killed a secondary school teacher in Nakuru will remain in custody for 3 more days. 18-year-old Franklin Ngetich, a Form 4 student of Tumaini Secondary School in Barut, will be detained following a ruling by Nakuru resident magistrate Yvonne Khatambi. The prosecution asked the court to detain Ngetich for 7 more days for the investigation to be completed before he is charged. Ngetich is among 3 students students suspected to have murdered the Hopewell Secondary School teacher Peter Mugusu after he confiscated a mobile phone found with one of the students. Mugusu was reportedly hit by a blunt object as he was on his way home. He died on the spot. All right, and tonight we had a picture speak for you, and I'm going to run that through you. Now, it was a day of uncertainty for Nakuru East Member of Parliament David Gikaria was arrested and charged in court for fraud. There he is. In court, the MP went through all manner of emotions, and we're now seeking your opinion. What do you think was going through the mind of the legislator as the charges were read to him? What do you think was going through the mind of the Member of Parliament? We'd like to hear from you. Our Twitter handle is at NTV Kenya, subsequently at Zainab Ismail. The hashtag is NTV Tonight. We'll be sampling some of those views at the tail end of this broadcast. Let's take a break.
Glad you could join us for the only name in business. Good evening. My name is Julians Amboko. Commercial banks will continue to extend credit to the private sector at a maximum rate of 13% following today's decision by the Monetary Policy Committee to retain the central bank benchmark rate at 9%. In its first meeting of 2019, the MPC has cited a stable inflation and exchange rate environment as key factors underlying its decision to retain the rate for the third time. Inflation stood at 5.7% in December 2018, placing it well within the target band of 2.5% to 7.5%. The MPC statement has also observed that what it terms as a strong growth in private sector credit to sectors such as consumer durables and the business services, a stark contrast from the previous statements where it had decried the impact of the rate cap on the credit flow into the economy. Earlier this month, Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria wrote to the Speaker of the National Assembly seeking to amend the law capping the interest rates by introducing a 6% risk negotiation window targeting small, medium businesses. Moving elsewhere, the government is inching closer to operationalizing the housing fund as it seeks to make housing affordable. The Ministry of Transport and Housing says Kenyans interested in benefiting from the fund can now register themselves through a portal. Alex Mwangi with that story.
Every year we have a deficit of more than 200,000 houses. Every year. Currently we have more than about 2 million in terms of deficit.
It's a deficit that seems to be growing rather than reducing, a problem that the government hopes to fix with the ambitious affordable housing project.
Government is not building houses. Let's just be very clear about that. This is private sector that is going to build these houses. As a matter of fact, today I'm sitting with over $15 billion worth of expression of interest from funders from across the globe, including local partners.
Those wishing to take up houses should register using the portal www.bomayangu.go.ke or at any of the Huduma centers countrywide.
Remember, there is a minimum deduction, the 1.5% subject to maximum of 2,500 per employer and per employee. However, we would like you to contribute more towards your house so that when your house is ready, you've already paid down a huge portion like a deposit, and then that will also lower your repayments.
The government has now mobilized sufficient funds to kick off the affordable housing project. What Kenyans now hope is that the actual building of the houses will commence and that it will not be slowed down by government bureaucracies to such an extent that Kenyans wait and get tired of waiting. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Away from housing, moving into the sugar sector. Now, lobby group Sugar Campaign for Change, or SUCAM, has kicked off what they say are public hearings of the plight of sugarcane farmers as it accuses the National Task Force led by Agriculture CS Mwangi Kiunjuri of being incompetent and biased. The group calls itself the Parallel Task Force led by former Kenya Sugar Board Chairman Saulo Busolo. SUCAM says it will hand over its findings to President Uhuru Kenyatta for implementation. Zakes Mwasame reports on that story.
Their first meeting was held at Mabanga Agricultural Training Center in Bungoma County. The cane farmers under the Kenya Sugar Alliance say enough is enough and that they are ready to take the bull by its horns for a lasting solution in the sugar sector to be found. And even though Agriculture CS Mwangi Kiunjuri set up a task force as directed by President Uhuru Kenyatta during last year's Mashujaa Day celebrations, the Sol Busolo-led SUCAM team has made a parallel task force that he says will provide genuine solutions to problems cane farmers are facing.
Na tumekataa hiyo task force ambayo imeundwa na serikali ya kwamba hawawezi kuita wakulima kupitia kampuni ambao wako na deni yetu.
There is a problem now with the Ministry of Agriculture. When it comes to sugar imports, even the minister cannot get the list correct.
And as the SUCAM team begins its public hearings, questions have been raised about its true intentions and if it's out to sabotage the official government task force.
Some of the issues challenges that we have been facing as a committee is sometimes you didn't have funds, and that is government. How can somebody pretend that you can come up with your own task force and move across the country, correct issues?
And as SUCAM held its sittings at Mabanga, a short distance away at Nzoia Sugar Grounds, another team was holding a similar forum, accusing SUCAM of deliberately causing confusion in the sugar sector.
Kama Mheshimiwa Busola alikuwa na maoni ile ambayo alikuwa anatakana kupeana, angekuja kwenye huu mkutano. Ama namna gani? Hatutaki anza kuonekana kwamba sisi kama wakulima tumeanza kuwa na divisions.
Kuna wale wawekezaji wa kibinafsi kama Bwana Rai na wale wa Butali na wengine wale wa Busia wanataka tusiwe na zoning ili waweze kufanya kitu ambacho kinaitwa poaching.
Zakus Masame, NTV.
Of claims and counterclaims in the sugar sector. Staying with agriculture, maize farmers in Uasin Gishu County are decrying the government's decision to slash the quantity of maize they can supply to the National Cereals and Produce Board. This follows the announcement by the Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund that farmers in Uasin Gishu can only supply 328,610 bags instead of 716,000 bags as had been announced before.
Serikali inajua kwamba walituuzia mifuko ya fertilizer gunia ngapi? Ni 1600. Wakati walipotuuzia walikuwa wanajua kwamba wakulima wameenda kupanda mahindi, wameenda kupanda ngano. Mbona siku ya kwenda kununua mahindi wanakataa na ilhali walituuzia nini mbolea?
Mambo ya kusema gunia moja kwa kila kijiji, hiyo hao wakulima sidhani kama watakubali. Kila moja kwa kila mkulima kwa kijiji. Kwa sababu waliposema kwamba ni gunia 80 kwa kijiji, ina maana kwamba kama kuna watu familia 80 kwa kijiji ni gunia moja kwa kila familia.
Kweli haya magunia ni chache kidogo, na tumejaribu kureallocate kwa ile ratios kwa each sub county mpaka each ward, ila watadeliver kufuatana na record yao ya hapo mbeleni, na wengine wanaenda kudeliver gunia karibu moja ama gunia 2.
Let's wind up with Marta's savings. Ekeza Sacco chairman David Ngari Elias Gakuyo says he intends to sell off some of his personal property in a bid to raise money to repay the irate cooperative members. Gakuyo, who was forced to address the angry Sacco members who had pitched tent and demonstrated outside his church in Thika, urged them to be patient as they await the verdict of the State Department of Cooperatives on whether the Sacco's license and accounts will be reinstated.
Up in arms and arms raised in protest, members of Ekeza Sacco stormed the Calvary Chosen Center in Thika, shepherded by the man who owns the Sacco, David Ngare Elias Gakuyo. They were armed with their title deeds, membership documents wrapped up in a dose of bottled anger. This time, they were relentless and efforts to calm them down were in vain.
Gakuyo amekuwa akituchezea. So hata tunashindwa, kwani tuko serikali gani? Kwani tuko Kenya gani? Tafadhali, tafadhali, tafadhali Gakuyo mahali yuko. Angalia wale watu wako hapa, tupatie pesa yetu. Angalia hawa mama wamebeba watoto wakikuja kukutafuta. Please, please, please Gakuyo. Tupatie pesa yetu, tupatie our log books, tupatie our title deed.
On the previous Sunday, when a group camped outside the house of worship, Ngare declined to address them and instead drove off after the church service was over. But the group, larger in number than the previous one, this time circled his church, closing in on any gaps for him to get away, ultimately forcing him to come and address them.
Sacco imefungwa na cooperative commissioner. Number 2, sina uwezo wa kutoa pesa ni wapatie. Number 3, tarehe 21 PS Susan amesema ya kwamba atatoa habari kamili kuhusu Ekeza Sacco.
Efforts by Gakuyo to convince the Sacco members that he had a way out was unwelcome and met with jeers.
Zenye tulifungua nazo hatutaki, ile tu hata tutaki faida, aturudishie pesa zetu.
The Sacco started by refunding those who had saved 75,000 shillings and below and has only refunded to 2,000 of its 53,000 members. Lillian Kiarie, NCV.
We hope there'll be some respite for those aggrieved savers. And that's it for the business this evening. Good evening. I'm Julian Samboko.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. From a former graffiti artist in Nairobi to operating a concrete batching machine encrypted in Chinese in Makueni County. This is the story of one Alan Wamuge, who, for the past 3 years, has been managing the machines at China Roads and Bridges Corporation, Section 7 in Emali. His love for mechanical operations pushed him to learn the Chinese language, and having been trained on the use and maintenance of the machines, he now needs no supervision from the Chinese and has in turn trained other Kenyan operators. His story on this week's My Job with Mel Miendo.
When Alan Wamuge left the art of graffiti work in Nairobi in 2015 seeking a job, he never imagined he would end up at the China Roads and Bridges Corporation in Emali. But that was the beginning of a life-changing experience.
I came as a general worker to look for a job. So when I got the opportunity to work here, I got interest in working in machines, because my heart loved working with machines.
Wamuge was trained for 3 months in operating the concrete batching machine at the China Roads and Bridges Corporation, Section 7 in Emali, Makueni County. And although the writing on the machines was in the Chinese language, Wamuge was well up to the task of being trained in machine operations as well as learning a new language.
I got interested in working for the machine because it was a new machine in Kenya. So most of people didn't know about the concrete batching plant. So I got interested in it. But the challenge is it was written in Chinese. So the good thing I had, the one who trained me, the Chinese engineer, first taught me the Chinese language.
Wamuge explains the procedure of producing the prefabricated T-beams and railway sleepers is technical, but he has mastered it fully.
First, when we want to start the mixing, we start by starting the mixer. We put it on. Here we put it on over here. Then after that, we put on the conveyor belt on, where the process it will start. After that, I will just feed whatever quantity I want.
Now, this is the feeding hoppers. This is where we feed before we start starting the conveyor belt, where we will put the sand, ballast and sand. It will pull up to the mixing machine. So now we are waiting for the ballast sand to feed to their quantity of weight so that we can start. Now the conveyor belt is starting rolling, where we will release the ballast and sand all together. You can now see how they are coming through the feeding bucket.
A process that takes only 120 seconds, Wamuge says, and carries quite a heavy load.
The maximum we can do is about 800 kg per bucket. It depending with the mixing you are taking. Like for the T-beams, it may go higher. For the sleepers, it's a bit lower.
A job that Wamuge has excelled in over the years, and having begun his work under a Chinese supervisor, he decided to take it as an opportunity to learn on the job. In turn, he even trained his fellow Kenyan operators.
I've trained more than 4 operators, whom they worked with minimum supervision. So I think it was a good thing because I love it and I had that interest in learning this concrete batching plant. So up to now, the phase 2 project, Naivasha, Mombasa, I've done it alone with minimum supervision, with no Chinese. I'm in charge of everything.
Mel Miendo, NTV.
All right, and at this point, we're going to take yet another short break. When we come back, Ida Wiringa will be bringing you all the sporting action.
world of sport. And a total of 18 Kenyan golfers, that being 12 professional and 6 amateur, will take part in this year's Kenya Open, which returns to the Karen Country Club after a 3-year stint at Muthaiga. While the Open will for the first time in its history be part of the European Tour Series and will take part from March 14th all the way to March 17th. The Kenya Open Golf Limited today unveiled sponsors for the 2019 Kenya Open Golf Championship, top of which is a partnership with the Ministry of Tourism through the Kenya Tourism Board worth 2.2 million euros or the equivalent of 253 million shillings. A total prize money for this year's tournament will be 126 million shillings, a move that's expected to attract the interest of top golfers from around the world.
Some additional things that are happening as a result of the elevation of this tournament to the tour include the fact that the village itself will have a lot more activity. We'll have some concerts on the Friday and the Saturday night, and those we are going to publicize after this launch we're having today, so that we are able to bring in a wide variety of people.
Let's move on. The 2019 African Cup of Nations in Egypt in June and July has been pushed forward by a week to cater for the holy month of Ramadan. The 4-week-long event will now run from June 21st to July 19th instead of June 15th to July 13th. Ramadan, in which Muslims abstain from food and water from sunrise to sunset, will this year be observed from the start of May until the beginning of June. The 2019 African Cup of Nations will for the first time this year take place in the summer and feature 24 teams as opposed to the normal 16. The draw is slated for April 12th in Cairo. Harambee Stars will join 23 other nations at the 32nd edition of this continental showpiece after breaking a 15-year jinx to qualify. However, 14 nations have already booked their slots. Well, still on matters football, KPL champions Gor Mahia have condemned the hooliganism acts witnessed during their 1-0 defeat to KCB in a Kenyan Premier League match at Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos on Sunday. Some Gor fans vented their anger in protest of a throw-in awarded against their team a minute before the final whistle, causing a 26-minute stoppage time. During this time, police engaged the already agitated fans in running battles that led to destruction of 3 vehicles. The KCB team bus had its rear windscreen vandalized, and the same spread to 2 Machakos County-owned ambulances that had parked at the stadium. The host team, KCB, will repair the damages before seeking compensation from Gor through the KPL Limited, who are yet to make any sanctions on the club hooliganism. Well, quite the unfortunate situation there. Kariobangi Sharks will be hoping to carry the winning momentum to their Kenyan Premier League clash against league leaders Mathare United, even as they seek to maintain their unbeaten run in the league. Sharks, who returned home from a successful outing in Dar es Salaam, having beaten Bandari FC to clinch the 2019 Sport Pesa Cup, will take on Mathare United on Wednesday at the Kasarani Stadium at 3 p.m. Meanwhile, Tanzanian side Yanga have expressed interest in signing 3 Kariobangi Sharks players, and coach William Muluya is not worried about his players leaving the club. Harrison Wendwa, who is among 3 targeted players, scored the all-important goal, with the others being midfielders Patila Omoto and Shafan Oyugi. Sharks eliminated the 27-time Tanzanian Premier League champions 3-2 at the quarter-final stage. Well, to some rugby, and former Kenyan Sevens strength and conditioning coach Jeffrey Kimani has rejoined Uganda's Sevens team. Kimani, who resigned from Kenya Sevens team in October last year, returns to Cranes Sevens, where he had also served for 1 season back in 2017. Kimani, who had signed for Kenya Sevens, rescinded his decision to sign up a new contract due to what he termed as personal reasons, and instead proceeded for a much-needed sabbatical. Kimani disclosed on his Facebook page and Twitter handle that he will be joining Crane Sevens to help them in their quest to qualify for the 2019-2020 World Rugby Sevens Series. Among Kimani's major highlights with the Kenya Sevens team was when the team won the 2016 Singapore Sevens, their maiden victory in the World Rugby Sevens Series. Well, USIU Africa Hockey Women's team gave an exceptional performance at the Africa Hockey Club Championships held in Abuja, Nigeria, by finishing 4th and subsequently being ranked the top university hockey team in Africa in the highly competitive tournament that took place in December last year. The team was competing against 4 clubs from 4 countries, which constituted top 2 ranked hockey teams from Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and Egypt. The USIU Africa ladies team, who were debutants in this tournament, registered 1 win, 1 draw and 4 losses. Spartans had emerged as second in the Kenya Hockey Union Premier League 2018 Women's League after Telkom Hockey team that also took part in the Africa Club Championship and subsequently won the title. Well, congratulations there to USIU. Kenya will play host to the 5th African Volleyball Confederation Coaches High Performance Seminar, slated for March 2nd through to 4th. Each national federation is allowed to nominate at least 2 senior coaches to attend the course. The course will be instructed by Italy's Mauro Beruto and directed by Sharif El Shemeli, who is also the CAVB Coaches Commission President. It will be a networking platform for some of the top coaches on the continent to interact and receive knowledge. Well, in our moment of the weekend, Kariobangi Sharks were crowned the 2019 Sport Pesa Cup winners after trouncing Bandari FC in the final held in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, earning the sole chance to play EPL side Everton FC. In the semi-final, however, Spen Yida converted his penalty against Mbao FC and celebrated in style. That and Sharks' celebration is our moment of the weekend.
Mwaka 2019 Kariobangi Sharks shaka sasa vijana Nairobi ni hemo na shangwe sana. Bila shaka shamra haya mashamsham yote wamestahili cha jasho kikosi utamu.
Yida versus Nata, and Yida displaces the goalkeeper and puts it in the net. And I think it just
Well, talk about personality on and off the pitch. We wrap things up in sports on that very animated note. Ida Warenga, I will challenge Zain here to actually try that move out in the newsroom. We'll see about that.
All right, well, Ida, I will definitely be taking up that challenge from you. We shall wait to see that soon. Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this hour. Many thanks for watching. Pressbus is coming right up your way with Mark Masai. Our sign language interpreter this evening was David Agondoa. My name is Zainab Ismail. Good evening.